How you doing, guys? And welcome to another episode of Finalysis. Now, last night we had Boxer. They were on the BBC. First time in 20 years that BBC's put a fight on. This was on the BBC iPlayer, and it was Frazer Clarke versus Jeamie TKV. Now, with this fight, it started off with Fraizer. I thought Fraizer took the first 4 rounds. Then in the middle rounds, it was quite close and it was hard to separate. There was a lot of holding, a lot of hugging. And in the first 4 rounds, I would say that Jeamie TKV, he initiated the hugging. But then as the fight went on, they were both hugging. And in the middle rounds, it was a bit of a snooze fest, if I'm honest. It was just a lot of hugging. They were fighting in close. A lot of, uppercuts, body shots, but still there was a lot of hugging. And now the fight for me, around the 9th round, I think Frazer Clarke started to get tired and his gas tank started to go. And Jeamie, he took over. Now, in the 11th round, he hit Frazer Clarke, and I'm surprised that he stayed on his feet to the end of the 12th, but he managed to stay on his feet to the end of the 12th, and it went to a points decision, and it was a split decision for Jeamie TKV. So Jeamie TKV is now the British heavyweight champion. Now, if we look at the Matchroom card, we had Ben Whittaker, and he was making his debut for Matchroom, and he faced Benjamin Gavazi. But we'll come to that fight in a bit. I just want to talk about 2 other fights on the undercard. One was with Aaron Bowen, and he was fighting Tom Cowling. Now, I thought that was a really good fight. Bowen, he was unbeaten, and up until this point, I think Cowling, he'd only lost 1 fight. Now, the fight, it was a tough fight, but as it played out, Cowling, he just kept putting the pressure on, but he couldn't miss with his jab. And as good as Bowen was, he just didn't move his head, and he was open to that jab throughout the whole fight. He made no adjustments, and he lost his undefeated record, and that went to Nottingham's Tom Cowling. So well done to Tom Cowling. But I did enjoy that fight on the undercard. That was a good fight. The other fight that I enjoyed was Cameron Vyung, and he was fighting Gavin Wynne. Now, this was a good fight. 2 different styles, 2 different contrasting styles. You had Cameron, skillful, fast hands, and then you had Wynne, pressure fighter, just keeps coming forward. Now, the styles matched up good to make an entertaining fight. Gavin, he just come through, and his pressure was just relentless, and he just kept pressuring. Cameron, he did well. And I must say that in their last fight, the reason for this rematch was the last fight was controversial. And I think Eddie Hearn said to him, it was controversial, you need to run this back. So him and Gavin Wynne, they ran the fight back, and this time it was a draw. I enjoyed that fight, it was a good fight. Now we come to the main event, Ben Whittaker versus Benjamin Gavazi. Now, I thought for Ben Whittaker making his debut for Matchroom, I thought this was a good matchup. Up until this point, Gavazi, he'd only lost 1 fight. He's had 19 fights. And then you got Ben Whittaker, he's had 10 fights. But his first test was Liam Cameron. And that ended up in a controversial ending where they both ended up over the ropes. In the rematch, Ben Whittaker, with Andy Lee, come back strong. No showboating, and he got the job done. That's, what more could you ask for? He got the job done. Now, there's a lot of criticism over Ben Whittaker, but I don't see it because it's his debut with Matchroom. People are saying, well, who's he fought? He hasn't fought no one. He's in his 10th fight. The guy he was fighting was in his 19th fight and he'd only had one defeat previous to this fight. And people saying, yeah, but who's this other guy for? But if you turn it around, you can say, who's Ben Whittaker for? So going into the fight, it's a good matchup. Yes, Ben was favoured to win, but it was still a good matchup and a good test. If he'd have lost this, people would have said, see, the moment he gets a bit more up in class, he loses. But no, he went in there, he did what he had to do, he got the job done, and it was a first round knockout. Well done. What more could you ask for? Now, I've heard people say, oh, he's nearly 28 and he hasn't fought no one, and Beterbiev and Bivol, they're champions, you know, they're champions in the light heavy, and he's not a champion at his age. But you got to remember, Bivol, yes, he was a champion at 24. Beterbiev, he was about 34 when he won his world championship. I personally think there's still room for Ben Whittaker. What is he, 28? Eddie Hearn was saying they want to step him up on another step-up fight after this, and then they can get him on a domestic level, looking at the likes of Dan Aziz, Craig Richards, and Willie Hutchinson, and possibly Buatsi after his last performance. And then you've got the next league, which is Callum Smith, Anthony Yard, that's the Fringe World titles. And then you've got the Bivol and Beterbiev. And you've also got David Benavidez if he comes back down to the light heavy after facing Zerdo. But anyway, so they're looking probably around late 26 or 2027 to give him his first world title shot. That's what Eddie Hearn said. So we'll take it from there. But yeah, great night of boxing. And guys, remember, if you like the video, like, share, and subscribe. Peace. I'm out of here.